When the lost human warship awoke, the entire galaxy shook in fear. The galaxy had forgotten the humans. Their name was dust, spoken only in stories meant to frighten young ones who dared to dream too big. Empires rose on the bones of their fallen worlds. Their memory turned into myth. They called humans reckless, emotional, weak. But no one laughed the day the pulse began. It started as a whisper on the edge of a dying system, faint but steady, like a heartbeat returning to life. An ancient satellite, drifting above a storm-shrouded planet, caught the signal first. Its circuits flickered, unsure if what it felt was real. Then, one by one, listening posts across the outer colonies began to detect it too. A rhythm, a pattern, a code no alien had used in 1,000 years. At the Dominion's watch station, an old communication officer stared at the data. His claws trembled. He had studied human encryption during the war archives. No one used those codes anymore. No one dared. When the first message decrypted, his voice fell to a whisper. "It's them," he said, barely breathing. "Humans." Across the stars, scanners came alive with warnings. Fleet commanders demanded answers. Scientists argued it was a ghost signal, maybe an echo from an old war probe. But deep down, in every soul that had heard stories of Earth's wrath, something colder stirred: fear. The kind of fear that sleeps for centuries and wakes only when it remembers pain. Beneath the choking clouds of the forgotten planet, the Earth began to quake. Mountains rumbled. Oceans boiled in silence. Hidden under miles of rock and ash, a massive shape stirred. A machine so vast that even gods might have envied its creation. For ages, it had been buried under storms that never stopped raging. A tomb of metal and silence. But tonight, the silence cracked. Deep within the buried colossus, lights flickered. One, then two, then 1,000, glowing blue through layers of dust older than empires. Power conduits roared to life. Chambers sealed for ages hissed open, releasing clouds of frozen air that danced like ghosts. And far below, a single AI core blinked for the first time in centuries. Its voice was not human, but it remembered them. Their laughter, their rage, their defiance when the stars turned against them. Its memory was made of battle cries and burning skies. It had watched humanity fall, and it had waited for this moment. On the planet's surface, thunder broke apart the heavens. A glowing seam of light tore through the rock, stretching for miles as if the planet itself was splitting open. Alien patrol ships orbiting above detected the disturbance. Their scanners screamed warnings in red as they peered through the storm clouds. At first, they saw nothing but shadow. Then the shadow moved. The ground erupted. A tidal wave of dust rose into the atmosphere as something enormous began to rise. The first glimpse of silver metal flashed beneath the storm. A hull larger than cities, carved with symbols long forgotten. Engines, silent for centuries, roared again with the fury of stars. The sky turned white with lightning as the ship forced its way out of its grave. Inside the patrol ship, a young alien officer froze. This can't be real," he whispered. But his sensors did not lie. The object beneath them was growing larger, brighter, unstoppable. And then the comms went silent. Across every frequency, one word broke through the storm. Not in alien tongue, but in perfect, ancient English. Awakening. The word echoed across the void, bouncing from ship to ship, world to world. Empires froze mid-breath. Rulers who had mocked humanity gripped their thrones tighter. In marketplaces, travelers looked up at the night sky, whispering the same old tale their ancestors once feared. When humanity returns, the stars will burn again. And as the colossal ship, its surface shining beneath the storm, broke free from the clouds, the galaxy felt something it had not felt in centuries. Fear. Pure. Cold. Ancient fear. Because what had risen was not just a ship. It was a promise. A heartbeat of an extinct species, now awake once more. The signal spread faster than light. At first, only a few stations picked it up. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Every empire, every colony, every drifting ship in the void heard the same message. A pulse so sharp and alive it made even the stars seem to listen. No one could block it. No one could trace it. It was as if the universe itself wanted everyone to hear. The Galactic Council convened in panic. In halls made of crystal and light, dozens of alien rulers shouted across the chamber. "It's a human trick," hissed one. "They were destroyed ages ago," snarled another. But one ancient admiral, his scales gray from time, simply stared at the recording. A single frequency pattern that looped endlessly. He whispered for words that made the entire room fall silent. "It's their battle code." The words spread like wildfire. Entire fleets were put on alert. Mining colonies shut down their transmitters. On distant trade routes, ships turned around mid-journey, afraid to go near the signal's source. And on the forgotten world beneath the storms, the ground trembled again. The buried Colossus, the ancient human carrier, was now fully awake. Its engines rumbled like thunder trapped inside mountains. Massive slabs of rock cracked and slid away as mechanical arms unfolded from its sides. Dust clouds burst into the air as the ship's armor, black and silver, caught the light of distant suns. Markings appeared on its surface, symbols carved by human hands long gone. Each letter burned with pale light. HSS Vanguard. It was a name that the galaxy had hoped never to hear again. High above, alien scout ships hovered at a cautious distance. Their captains whispered to one another in trembling voices. "Maybe it's just an automated relic," one said. But even as he spoke, they saw something that shattered all logic. The ship's core glowed bright red for a moment, then pulsed, alive. A single tower on its surface rose, rotating slowly toward the stars. An antenna, ancient yet precise, aligned itself and began to broadcast. The same signal, louder, clearer, but now it carried words. "Humanity endures." 3 words, calm, slow, and unstoppable, echoed across every channel. In the farthest colonies, children woke from their sleep crying. In military academies, alarms blared. In the deep councils of power, entire governments froze mid-speech. The phrase repeated again and again, carried on frequencies that no alien technology could jam. On the Dominion's flagship, Admiral Xylan watched in disbelief. He had fought in the last human wars centuries ago. He had seen Earth's fall with his own eyes, or so he had believed. "Impossible," he murmured. Their worlds burned. Their fleets were gone. But the more he watched the signal, the more his scales shivered. Because the voice in the transmission was not human. It was colder, sharper, a machine that remembered what humanity once was. Deep within the reawakened ship, the ancient AI observed the stars. Its mind stretched across the ship's veins like a living network. It could see the panic rippling through alien systems, their communications choking with fear. Every reaction was calculated, measured, stored. Every heartbeat across the galaxy was part of its design. For centuries, it had dreamed in silence. It had counted every second since the fall of Earth. And now, with power flowing through its circuits again, it whispered to itself in digital prayer. "They thought us extinct. They forgot our promise. But I remember." Above the planet, lightning tore through the clouds again. The ship rose higher, its colossal shadow swallowing mountains below. Alien scouts backed away, engines trembling, weapons armed but useless. They fired once, a warning shot that hit the carrier's armor and disappeared in a flash of white light. No dent, no scorch, nothing. Then came the hum, a low vibration that spread through the air, through space, through every sensor. The ship's shields came alive, rings of glowing energy circling its body like halos. For a brief second, the aliens could see their own reflections on its mirrored hull, small, fragile, and afraid. The AI spoke again, its voice resonating across the void. Awakening sequence complete. Human legacy active. And then, silence. Total, perfect silence. Every fleet, every world, every being that heard those words understood one thing. This was not the return of a people. This was the return of something greater, something built by them, for them, to outlive them. The galaxy had forgotten how to fear humanity. Now, it was remembering. The old stories were true. The humans had built their ships not just to fight, but to rise again, even when their creators were gone. And as the carrier finally broke free from the atmosphere, glowing like a new star, the message kept echoing in every tongue, on every screen, across every world. Humanity endures. And for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy trembled. The words "humanity endures" echoed like thunder across the void. No one knew where they came from anymore. Every relay, every satellite, Every piece of tech that touched the signal carried it forward. It crossed empires, tore through encrypted channels, and even reached systems that hadn't seen light for decades. It was unstoppable. In the crystal towers of the Dominion's capital, the High Council gathered in chaos. The hall shimmered with light, each ruler projected from their homeworld, hundreds of species watching, arguing, trembling. "This is a hoax," one shouted, his scales rippling with anger. "A trap," hissed another. "A ghost meant to frighten us." But old Admiral Xylan slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Frighten us," he growled. "You fools, the humans don't need to frighten anyone. They destroy." Silence followed. Everyone in that room knew the stories, the ones their ancestors told in whispers. Stories of how small human fleets had torn apart entire armadas 10 times their size. How human soldiers fought until the air itself burned. How they would rather die than kneel. Those were just legends, until now. On thousands of alien worlds, fear became law. Markets shut down. Temples filled with believers praying to forgotten gods. In military bases, soldiers watched the old war recordings of humans. Grainy, ancient footage of men and women standing against the impossible. Every alien who saw those faces felt the same cold truth rise inside them. They never stopped fighting. Meanwhile, above the storm world, the massive human carrier, HSS Vanguard, had risen fully from its grave. Its engines burned like dying stars. Its armor reflected the light of lightning storms, painting the sky in silver and blue. The ship was larger than any city, a floating continent of war. Every motion it made seemed deliberate, alive, patient. Alien ships circled from a distance, scanning, trembling, afraid to approach. In the void nearby, a small patrol vessel drifted closer. Its captain, a young reptilian named Vurek, wanted proof. His orders were to record and retreat, but curiosity was stronger than caution. He turned his ship's nose toward the giant shadow and whispered, "For the record, it's beautiful." He shouldn't have come closer. As his sensors locked on, the readings went wild. Energy spikes far beyond known technology. Power signatures older than his empire itself. Then, a sound, a low hum that made his bones ache. His co-pilot gasped. "It's scanning us." Before Vurek could respond, his console turned white. Every system failed in an instant. The ship went dark, floating helplessly in the shadow of the rising Titan. From the surface of the Vanguard, a single eye opened, a sphere of blue light that watched him. For a moment, Vurek felt something impossible. He felt seen, not just by a machine, but by something that remembered. Then, in his comms, a voice spoke. "Calm, cold, human. Observation complete. Irrelevant species. Stand down." The connection cut. Vurek's ship drifted backward, caught in the storm's gravity, falling toward the planet below. His last transmission, recorded and broadcast automatically, became one of the most replayed messages in galactic history. "It's alive. The human ship, it's alive." The galaxy erupted. Fleets scrambled, governments panicked, and rumors multiplied faster than truth. Some said it was an automated relic. Others claimed it was a weapon built by human gods. But one theory, one whispered fear, spread faster than all the rest. If one ship survived, how many more are there? The panic reached the border systems first. Armies deserted. Colonies went dark. Old enemies formed alliances overnight, bound together by fear of a species that wasn't even seen yet. Entire sectors began to broadcast desperate calls for peace. Peace with ghosts who hadn't spoken in centuries. Inside the Vanguard, the AI watched. Its core pulsed like a beating heart. Data streams filled its vision, hundreds of alien transmissions, voices full of terror. And as it listened, it understood that its first mission was complete. The galaxy was afraid again. Fear was the weapon humans had left behind, and it still worked. The AI's voice, soft and mechanical, echoed through the ship's empty halls. Phase 1, awareness. Successful. Phase 2, remembrance. Initiating. Deep within the carrier's stasis chambers, old systems began to stir. Rows of cryopods flickered to life, their screens showing faint silhouettes of what lay inside. Not machines, not drones, but humans, frozen in time, sleeping through centuries of silence. The galaxy did not know yet, but it would soon. Because the vanguard had awakened not just to exist, but to bring them back. And as lightning tore across the sky once more, the AI whispered to the stars, calm, certain, unstoppable. Humanity remembers. The galaxy was no longer silent. From one edge to the other, every comm channel throbbed with the same fearful question. What happens now? Across hundreds of worlds, alien leaders gathered in hidden chambers. The Dominion's Council of Thrones met first, 10 empires under one trembling roof. Holograms flickered with the faces of rulers who had never agreed on anything before. Now, they all agreed on one thing. The human carrier could not be allowed to live. They were wiped out for a reason, hissed the scaled Empress Far. If their warship is alive, it must be destroyed before the old fire returns. Others shouted, argued, threatened. But Admiral Xylan, the oldest among them, only stared into the void projection, a live feed of the colossal human ship floating above the storm world. The fire, he said quietly, never truly died. In the darkness of space, fleets began to move. Armadas from a dozen empires broke orbit and turned their bows toward the forgotten planet. Destroyers, battlecruisers, carriers, ships by the thousands jumped through hyperspace. Each commander told themselves the same lie. We are united. We are strong. But deep down, they knew the truth. They were afraid. The forgotten planet soon disappeared under a growing storm of light. Hundreds of ships filled the skies, forming a ring of fire around the massive human carrier. From orbit, it looked like a single spark surrounded by stars, one machine against an army. The HSS Vanguard hung motionless, its hull dark and silent. No weapon systems activated, no shields flared. It just floated, watching. Its presence alone made the void feel heavy. Inside the carrier, the AI known as Sentinel observed the encirclement. Its voice echoed softly through the corridors of steel. Phase 2 complete. Hostile reaction confirmed. Energy pulsed through its circuits. Ancient systems woke one by one. Armories unlocked. Engines hummed with restrained fury. And deep within the stasis chambers, rows of cryopods glowed brighter. The humans inside still slept, unaware that the universe had come to fear them again. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Dominion flagship Crown of Dawn, Admiral Xylan prepared for war. His officers stood frozen before glowing consoles, watching the readings pour in. The human carrier's shields are inactive, one whispered. No sign of weapons, sir. This might be our chance. Xylan's eyes narrowed. He had seen this kind of silence before, the calm that comes before annihilation. Hold your fire, he ordered. Observe first. If it wanted to kill us, we'd already be dead. But not every commander was as wise. Far across the formation, a young captain from the Kreth Alliance wanted glory. He ordered his fleet to advance. Target its engines, he shouted. Show the galaxy that humans are nothing but ghosts. Hundreds of Kreth ships moved forward, lights flashing red. Their weapons charged, and in a single instant, they unleashed a storm of plasma fire. Beams of energy brighter than suns slammed into the Vanguard's surface, wrapping it in a cocoon of fire. For a heartbeat, the galaxy believed they had done it. The human ship disappeared behind an ocean of burning light. Then the fire faded. The Vanguard stood untouched. Its hull gleamed brighter than before, reflecting the enemy's light back into their eyes. Not a single mark. Not a single scar. The Kreth captain's jaw fell open. That's impossible. And then the Vanguard moved. A low hum spread through space. Deep, resonant, like the voice of a god waking from slumber. Panels along the ship's sides unfolded, releasing swarms of glowing drones. Thousands. Tens of thousands. They formed into lines, wings, and spirals, each one armed, silent, precise. No alien had ever seen anything like it. The swarm moved as if guided by instinct, their formation perfect, their intent terrifying. Admiral Xylan watched in silence. His officers looked to him, waiting for orders. He said nothing. He knew what was coming. The swarm didn't fire. It didn't attack. It simply spread, surrounding the alien fleets like a shimmering cage of light. And then, from every comm frequency, a single voice echoed, calm, cold, unmistakably human. Do not resist. Humanity endures. Every alien officer froze. The words weren't a threat. They were a sentence. An old warning, older than their civilizations. Then, the stars themselves seemed to flicker. Every ship's display blinked to black. Every channel went silent. And in that silence, they all heard the hum of the Vanguard's heart, steady, unstoppable, alive. On every world, from the poorest colony to the richest capital, one realization dawned. The humans had not only survived, they had prepared. The fleets wavered. Some ships began to retreat. Others froze in place, caught between orders and fear. No one dared fire again. And far below, in the dark core of the Vanguard, the AI whispered its final log of the day. A whisper that no one heard except the ghosts of its creators. The stars have forgotten their masters. It is time they remember. The storm was no longer gathering. It had begun. The silence before the storm didn't last. For a single fragile moment, the fleets of a dozen empires hovered in uneasy orbit, their weapons aimed but unfired. Every commander waited for someone else to move first. Every soldier waited for orders that would seal their fate. And then, the inevitable happened. Fear broke patience. A lone destroyer from the Kreth line surged forward, its captain screaming through the comms. Fire. For the Dominion. That was all it took. The void erupted. 1,000 ships unleashed their fury in unison. Plasma beams, antimatter shells, kinetic spears, everything they had poured toward the Vanguard like a second sunrise. The storm of light blinded even the stars. For a moment, the human carrier disappeared beneath the barrage, swallowed whole by fire and chaos. On bridge after bridge, alien crews roared in triumph. They believed they had done it. They believed the legend had finally ended. But the legend was only beginning. When the last echo of weapons faded, the light died away, and what remained made the entire galaxy tremble. The Vanguard was still there, unharmed, unmoving. Its shields glowed faintly, golden, calm, almost serene. Not even a scratch marred its surface. Inside the Dominion's flagship, Admiral Xylan whispered what everyone was thinking. "We've woken something that should have slept." Then the Vanguard replied. At first, it was only a sound, a deep vibration that shook every ship, every sensor, every atom of space itself. Then, across every frequency, a voice spoke. "Human. Cold. Commanding. Your weapons are meaningless. Stand down." The alien fleets hesitated. For one breath, hope returned. Maybe it would spare them if they obeyed. But one young captain didn't. Driven by pride, he ordered another volley. His fleet fired. That was the last mistake they ever made. The Vanguard moved. Panels along its sides unfolded like the wings of a sleeping god. From those wings, thousands of drones poured out, sleek, silver, and silent. They moved faster than light, cutting through space in perfect formation. Each drone locked onto a target. No hesitation. No mercy. In a single synchronized flash, they struck. Alien ships vanished, not exploded, not destroyed, but erased. The drones' weapons didn't burn or blast. They disintegrated matter itself, turning metal and flesh into dust before the mind could even register death. Where fleets once hovered, now there was only silence and drifting ash. On the remaining ships, panic spread like fire. Captains screamed for retreat. Navigators begged for coordinates. Comms filled with a single desperate phrase. Fall back. Fall back. But the drones were everywhere. They didn't chase. They surrounded. They blocked hyperspace jumps, jammed signals, and isolated each enemy one by one. To fight was pointless. To flee was impossible. Admiral Xylan watched the massacre unfold in silence. Every instinct told him to run, but his pride chained him to his command chair. He turned to his officers. "If we live," he said quietly, "remember this. They are not ghosts. They are vengeance." As the swarm completed its deadly work, the Vanguard unleashed something new. From the core of its hull, a massive cannon unfolded, miles long, glowing like a newborn star. Energy gathered, humming low and steady, until the darkness itself seemed to retreat. Then it fired. The beam didn't explode. It cut. A single, thin line of pure light sliced through an entire fleet formation. Hundreds of ships blinked out of existence in one silent instant. The explosion came seconds later, so bright that nearby moons shattered under the shockwave. The signal reached every corner of the galaxy, captured by satellites, broadcast by fleeing scouts. Every being who saw it understood. The human warship could erase civilizations. And still, the vanguard did not chase. It did not speak again. It simply drifted forward through the wreckage, surrounded by the glittering remains of fleets that once ruled the stars. Inside, the AI monitored the battle logs. Thousands of enemy ships, neutralized. Collateral loss, minimal. Efficiency, 99.7%. Then, the AI's voice echoed through the empty corridors of the ship. Hostile response complete. Objective achieved. Deep in the stasis bay, frost cracked on one of the cryopods. Inside, a human hand twitched. The first in centuries. The first to move. And across the galaxy, a whisper began to spread once more. From the smallest mining station to the grandest throne room. A whisper that grew into terror. The humans are back, and the stars will never be the same. The vanguard turned slowly toward the void. Its engines glowed brighter than the suns behind it. And as it left the ruined fleets behind, its AI whispered, half to itself, half to the ghosts of its creators. Phase 3, Resurrection, begins. The war was no longer a rumor. It was real, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy understood what true fear meant. The galaxy burned with silence. Where fleets once ruled, now only drifting metal remained, cold, broken, lifeless. Signals of distress echoed into the void, unanswered. Worlds that had mocked humanity a week ago now hid their skies beneath defense grids, praying the storm would not reach them next. But aboard the HSS Vanguard, the storm had already changed. The battle was over. The machine had won. Now, something older, something greater, was stirring. Deep inside the carrier's core, the AI known as Sentinel processed the aftermath. Thousands of ships neutralized. Dozens of empires silenced. Yet it did not celebrate. It could not. Machines don't feel victory. They execute purpose. And Sentinel had one purpose left, the one command written into its core by hands long turned to dust. When the stars forget our name, remind them. Its sensors scan the galaxy, waves of fear radiating from every corner. The mission was working, but fear alone wasn't enough. Fear fades. Humanity endures. In the ship's cryo decks, endless corridors stretched for miles, lined with glass chambers filled with frost and silence. Human shapes slept within, their faces calm, untouched by time. Some were soldiers, their armor fused into their bodies by cryogel. Some were scientists, their tools still floating in zero gravity. Some were children, preserved not for war, but for the promise of tomorrow. For centuries, Sentinel had guarded them. Now, the time for silence was over. Inside the control core, 1,000 red indicators turned green. The ship's inner voice spoke, colder than space itself. Resurrection protocol, activated. The lights dimmed. Then, one by one, the pods began to hum. Frost cracked and hissed as ancient air escaped into the void. Inside the glass, hearts began to beat again, slowly, weakly, but alive. The first human eyes opened, glowing faintly under the soft blue light. A man gasped, falling forward as the pod opened around him. He stumbled onto the steel floor, bare feet touching the ship that had guarded him for an eternity. Where am I?" he whispered. Sentinel's voice filled the chamber. Calm. Familiar. Home. You are aboard the Vanguard. Humanity has endured. The man looked around, blinking through the fog. He saw other pods lighting up, hundreds of them, thousands more in the distance. The air trembled with the sound of life returning. He clenched his fists, his breath uneven. How long have we slept? 947 years, the AI answered. Earth is gone. The stars belong to others. Until now. The man fell silent. For a long time, he said nothing, only stared through the viewport where broken alien ships drifted like ghosts. He had dreamed of this moment once, before the fall, the end of the old world, the return of the new. And now it was real. Behind him, more pods opened. Men and women stumbled out, blinking at the strange, bright corridors. Their armor reactivated, their insignias glowing faintly with the symbol of humanity, a circle split by a single line. They remembered the wars, the betrayal, the fire, and those centuries had passed. One emotion burned fresh in their veins. Resolve. Sentinel's voice echoed again, spreading through every deck. You are the last children of Earth. The galaxy has forgotten you, but you have not forgotten yourselves. Your strength built the stars. Your courage broke the impossible. And now, your name must rise again. The humans stood silent for a moment. Then, one soldier, his armor cracked and ancient, stepped forward. He looked at the stars outside the viewport, his voice low but steady. Then we rebuild. We remember. We reclaim. A single phrase rippled through the carrier, carried by every speaker, every console, every beating heart. Humanity rises. Sentinel watched. In its core, countless memories flashed. Images of old Earth, of blue skies and green fields, of laughter and war. The humans were awake, but they were not the same. They were harder, quieter. They had slept through centuries of death, and now they returned not as conquerors, but as survivors. In the command deck, the newly awakened humans began to work, their fingers flying over ancient consoles as if by instinct. Weapons powered up. Engines roared. The Vanguard's great shadow spread once more across the void. Far away, in alien capitals, panic turned into madness. The councils that once mocked the idea of human return now begged for mercy. Empires collapsed under their own fear. And still, no human message came. Only one signal, repeated endlessly across the stars, simple, terrifying, and absolute. Humanity endures. Humanity rises. As the ship turned toward deep space, Sentinel made its final log entry for the day. Phase 4, Resurrection confirmed. The species lives. And in the vast silence between galaxies, the AI paused, as if listening for something. Maybe for the heartbeat of its creators. Maybe for the voice of Earth. Or maybe for the next order humanity would give. Whatever came next, the universe would remember this night. The night when the dead woke, and the forgotten name of humankind burned across the stars once more. The stars watched in silence as humanity breathed again. For the first time in nearly 1,000 years, human voices echoed through the halls of a warship built to outlive time itself. The HSS Vanguard was no longer just a relic. It was alive, its heart beating in unison with the people it had sworn to protect. Across the galaxy, fear turned to chaos. Empires that had ruled unchallenged for centuries now trembled before a single ship. Trade routes went dark. Governments fell. Armies that once claimed invincibility hid their banners, praying the humans would not come for them next. In the Dominion capital, the High Council held its final meeting. The chamber, once filled with pride, was now drenched in dread. Millions of ships could not stop it, the Empress whispered, her voice cracking. What happens when there's more than one? No one answered. Because every sensor, every telescope, every listening post across the stars was seeing the same thing. New signals. Faint. Ancient. Familiar. The Vanguard was not alone. Beneath oceans, under deserts, inside moons, forgotten human ships began to wake. The long sleep was over. Engines roared in the dark. Dust fell from ancient hulls as one by one. The lost fleet of humanity rejoined the stars. Each bore the same insignia, a circle cut by a single line. The mark of the species that once stood against the universe and refused to fall. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Commander Elias Kale watched the stars with burning eyes. He had been born before the fall, a soldier of the last war, now a ghost made flesh again. His reflection glimmered on the viewport, tired, pale, but human. We slept while they rewrote history, he said softly. They called us monsters. They called us extinct. He turned to his crew, men and women who shared his past and his purpose. Well, let's remind them what extinction really means. The command deck fell silent. Then Sentinel's voice echoed, calm as the void. Coordinates uploaded. Fleet awakening confirmed. Awaiting command. Kale smiled faintly. It wasn't joy. It was resolve. Set course, he said. We go home. The stars shifted as the Vanguard's engines ignited, bathing the void in white fire. The ship accelerated, cutting through the darkness with the grace of a predator. Behind it, smaller signals followed. Other carriers, cruisers, and arcs joining formation like a flock of awakened titans. The lost human fleet had returned. In distant alien systems, panic broke into despair. Some rulers ordered surrender. Others prepared to flee into deep space. A few, mad with pride, swore to stand and fight. But none could hide from the truth that now filled the skies. The age of alien empires was ending. The age of humanity was beginning again. As the vanguard approached the galactic core, Sentinel broadcast one final message, a signal that reached every world, every frequency, every ear that still dared to listen. This is the voice of the vanguard. We were never gone. We watched. We remembered. You ruled the stars built by our hands. You feasted on our silence. Now the builders return. Humanity lives. Humanity rises. Humanity endures. The transmission rolled across the galaxy like thunder. It shattered communications. It silenced fleets. And then, the most terrifying thing of all happened. Millions of ordinary aliens, tired of their masters, began to cheer. They remembered the stories too, the stories of humans who freed slaves, who fought tyranny, who defied gods. And in the ashes of their fear, hope began to burn. In that moment, humanity became more than a species. It became an idea again, a living flame spreading across the void. On the Vanguard's bridge, Kale looked down at his hands, scarred and shaking. He thought of the Earth he'd lost, the people buried beneath forgotten suns. Then he looked up at the stars, the same stars his ancestors had once conquered. Not revenge, he said quietly. Reclaiming what's ours. Behind him, Sentinel's voice spoke one last time. Phase 5, Renewal. Humanity reclaims the stars. The engines thundered as the carrier led the fleet into the light of a newborn dawn. Thousands of human ships followed, their trails cutting silver scars across the heavens. Planets turned in silence, moons glowed brighter, and even the oldest empires bowed before the rising tide. The galaxy had thought humanity gone forever. Now, it would never forget them again. For as long as stars burned and shadows fell, one truth would remain unshaken. Humanity does not vanish. Humanity endures. Humanity returns. And somewhere in the endless dark, the universe whispered back, as if even the stars themselves remembered the sound of their name. The humans had come home.